Welcome to Don't Chuck It Up, the podcast where we take the stress out of the college search. I'm your host, Chuck, a college counselor helping families and educators navigate admissions with clarity and confidence. And today, we are talking about second-year college success. Let's talk about what happens after your students get through their first year of college and are navigating the second year of college. And to help me have this conversation and to really dive into this topic, I've brought back my good friend, Mya Anderson. Welcome back to the show, Mya.
It's really good to be back, Chuck. I think it's fair to say that conversations with you are kind of one of my favorite things. And I'd like to think that our episodes garner listens because we're both coming at this from the same viewpoint, if you will. But maybe our perspectives are a little different because we have both done the higher ed thing, but we've done it in different ways.
Yeah, and the years of being in the trenches of working at various colleges and universities and institutions have given us different perspectives, although I think surprisingly similar perspectives, even though we were at drastically different places. I think you add the extra layer of being a parent of a college student. So now you are living, breathing, doing this stuff, and you're probably having flashbacks to when you worked at colleges. So for those of you who did not interact with Mya during her last time on the show, she was here during episode 54, where we talked about college prep for parents, giving advice for parents on this navigating process and getting their kids off to a great start at college. So if you want to learn more about Mya, tune back into episode 54, College Prep for Parents. Mya, you are an academic life coach for college students. That's a mouthful. Why don't you take a moment and introduce yourself and explain what the heck do you do?
So, as we said earlier, I'm Mya Anderson. I am the founder of the Student Empowered, which is an academic life coaching practice. And yes, it is a mouthful, but it actually is the best description of what I do. So I'm not a tutor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a life coach, and I'm not an academic advisor, but I am the person that has enough knowledge of the academic side of the student experience to be able to give students not only insight, but also good leadership on where on campus are the things that the places and the people that are going to help you with the things that you need. But I also have tied in that personal development piece, because so often what we talk about is academic success, but we don't equate the personal development, the better getting to know who you are, so on and so forth, is actually a giant piece of academic success. Because if you are unsure about who you are as a person, that shows up in other places.
Yep.
And it's okay to be unsure. The big part that matters is identify that, ask for leadership, seek mentors, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I kind of equate you as to, if I was visiting a new location, I would love to have an expert tour guide kind of lead the way and show me around. So you're kind of like that expert tour guide, knowledgeable resource who understands how colleges and universities function, so you can give students the heads up as to what directions they need to go, have them plan the long road and the long game. College, as we talked about in our previous episode, is way different now than when parents were there. So you really bring a current perspective to those things. But I also love that you help students get their feet solidly under them. So you're not just helping them look to the future, but you're trying to make sure that their day-to-day time management, study skills, just overall life management is going really well so that they can be successful, not only today, but next week, next semester, and through to graduation. Because we don't want to just get them admitted to college. We want to get them across the graduation stage and hopefully in a timely manner.
Exactly. And also have some sort of plan when they are done. Like, it also helps, like, let's talk about what your major really looks like as a job.
Hmm. Well, and I think that's a
Yeah.
great segue into what our topic is for today, which is student success as a second year student or a sophomore student for people who use that moniker, because there's a lot of emphasis on getting students rocking and rolling at the beginning of college. And of course, there's incredible focus on students their final year of college, of how do you get them out the door, whether that's going to the work world, grad school, whatever it may be. But we don't really talk about the middle, like it's like an Oreo. The middle stuff is actually quite important, and we need to pay attention to what happens in the middle between the two outsides. So why do you think the second year of college is such a vulnerable point for students?
Well, first, I think probably the first default answer I have is that the assumption is that if you have completed your first year of college successfully, that you will come back, because what else would you do?
Right.
By default, you will return. So the assumption is that retention exists simply because you completed 1 year. 25%, 27% of students don't actually come back. They've completed 1 year of college and for a multitude of reasons don't come back. For the ones that do come back, there is no fanfare. It
Right.
is, we were expecting you.
Yeah, the move-in date
And
for sophomores is kind of boring, because you're like the first year students get all of the fanfare and they get the help moving in and they roll out the red carpet and you maybe get a t-shirt, where when you come back for your second year, they're like, all right, dorms open at noon. Don't forget to grab your key. Welcome. Like,
yeah, good luck with that.
yeah.
Like, hope you brought a wagon. I mean, it is so distinctly different. And for students that I have been lucky enough to work with into their second year, I will say to them, like, are you a little disappointed
Mm-hmm.
in the first week? And 100% of them say yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because they were led to believe that the institution was delighted to have them at the beginning of fall and the beginning of spring.
Right.
And then they circled back around and it's like, well, of course you're here.
And they are, and I do see more and more colleges paying attention to second
Yes.
year, also
Yes.
known as sophomore students, because they are noticing that exact statistic that you mentioned, that just over 25% of students, now we're talking, that's a national statistic. It's
Yeah.
not, some colleges are way lower than that. Some colleges,
Yeah.
unfortunately, are way higher than that. But nationally, on average, about 25-ish% of students choose not to return to that institution after 1 year. Some of them are transferring, some of them are going to the workforce, some of them are just being like, nope, college is done. I'm
Yeah.
over. So what is that big misconception that we are having about the second year? What's the real misunderstanding that we're having?
So, first things first, because we are talking about the institutions that are doing better, a lot of this conversation is provoked by a conference that I attended in middle of 25, put on by the University of South Carolina. They have a very strong research area in the college experience in first year and so on and so forth. And they, for their annual conference, actually committed to 4 different presentations about the second year, which to me, I was really glad to see. And the conversation has actually grown and more institutions are talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for the purpose of a lot of the things I'm going to talk about, the information that is not personal experience, but is beyond that, genuinely, it would be a mistake to not recognize the institutions who did present,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that they really consistently presented the same thing, which is the second year is under designed. Like, we haven't been taking care of it. So, little shout out to the Ohio State University, Kennesaw State, University of Southern Alabama, and then, of course, University of South Carolina, because they had individuals from their institutions presenting conversations about the second year. And consistently, the conversation was, we got to do better.
Mm-hmm.
And let's recognize institutions that are speaking up about that. And let's recognize institutions that are doing things different to welcome back second years. They are adding structure, they're adding better programming, they're doing those things because they matter. And so if you're a parent listening to this, don't fall into the trap of everyone knows what to do with my student because they came back.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, go and look on the institution's website and put in the search button second year student services, or contact the admissions office and ask these questions, because they're doing better. And I'm going to talk in broad terms today, but having conversations with your student about their second year that are not wholly framed around your major.
Right.
This is the stuff that matters. Let's not talk about majors. Let's talk about majors and.
Yes. Well, and I think the institutions that you listed are all medium and larger institutions where they need to, for lack of a better phrase, institutionalize this programming on a broad scale. You're talking about the Ohio State University, one of the largest public institutions in the United States. They're having to do programming on a very large scale to impact all of the second year sophomore students, where I also want to make sure that parents and students realize that small colleges, those that are less than 5,000 students, already have a lot of this as part of their ethos, as part of who they are as small institutions. That's because the student to staff and student to faculty ratios are much, much lower on those institutions. They are more undergraduate focused, and therefore you may not see conversations around second year or sophomore student success happening on the website on a small college, but it's definitely happening because for smaller colleges, every butt in the seat is important. So they are going to be working twice as hard to keep those butts in the seats as they may at a medium, a large, or even an extra large, some of the most gargantuan institutions in the United States. So just want to put that out there. If you don't freak out, parents, if you don't see something about second year or sophomore student success on your website. But I agree with you, Mya. Parents need to be asking about this. Like, what are you doing to support the kid in finding the major, which is a critical part of the second year, but also finding the connections to the campus and moving themselves to a state of independence and self-awareness. So that leads us into, so what role do these relationships play in helping students succeed in these middle years? What type of relationships should they be building as a second year student?
So first, I would say is that this is when, as a student, you really take a close look at your academic habits. What is it that you're doing well? Lean in. What is it that you can do better? Ask for help. Learn how to do it better. And so if your first year was a moderate success, which is perfectly fine. This is not about judging what your first year was like.
Yep.
But if it was a moderate success, take a minute and evaluate, what did I do well? And what are the things that I don't know how I did, or that I learned maybe I should do better? And ask questions, ask your professors, ask your academic advisor, ask your success coach, ask the people on your campus that you heard from and saw the most in your first year for how do I level up the second year? The second year, traditionally, at larger institutions is really designed, it's not designed around support. It is designed around the expectation that you've figured it out.
Right.
And unfortunately, because of that, this is where engagement falls, because the assumption that you've figured it out means that the already passive systems become increasingly more passive.
Right.
Ironically enough, they're going to show up more in the middle of your third year than they are than at the beginning of your second year. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
We're dealing with the system that's quite old, so some things have not been repaired over the years, and that's another topic
Exactly.
for another day.
This is why you have a Mya Anderson. The person who like, I'm going to translate the system. Like I'm going to translate these things and help you navigate the system.
Yeah, and I think the work that you do is helpful for students at a wide variety of institutions, but I think it's critically important for students who are at medium, large, and those extra large institutions where there are less touch points available for students to be interacting with staff. So I think the point that you're really trying to make is that students need to be connecting to the resources that are available to them. And I think the hard part is a lot of students, myself included, I was a very successful high school student, and then I quickly smacked against the wall. Now, every student in college smacks against the wall at some point in time academically. Mine happened to be right away after the first semester, and I was on academic probation. So I had to get my butt into the Academic Success Center on my college campus. Every campus has one. You should know where it is. It might be called the Student Success Center. But man, if I had $1 for every time I referred a student to the Academic Success Center on their campus, at any rate, I got my butt into that office and understood what the studying requirements were for college, time management, how to limit procrastination. You're not going to completely eliminate procrastination, but how to limit procrastination. And I got my butt in gear and I was fine. For many students, that smack against the academic wall happens during the second sophomore year. And so getting them the resources and the touch points and the staff that can help them. And a lot of students hate asking adults for help. They're like, I'm an adult now, I'm over 18, I'm in college, I can do this myself. But this is why universities and colleges have staff.
Well, and also when for a lot of larger institutions, medium, large, extra large, there isn't a second year housing requirement. Your first year housing requirement meant conversations with your RA got you answers. The second year, you're off campus. And your leasing agency is not going to give you the same support as your RA.
Yep.
And your the decision making is more complex. Mm-hmm. Your academic demands and the academic standards are increasing. There's fewer guardrails. There's all of those things are not in place. And so if you are already unsure about asking for assistance, asking for help, kind of throwing your hands in the air and walking to an office and saying, I don't know. If you are unsure about doing that and you didn't conquer that in the first year, it's really, really hard in year two, because if your first year you managed and you were okay, you didn't necessarily excel, but you got through it, there's this gap that happens in the second year where you can't just maintain. You either are going to rise above or you're going to fall off. That running the middle, it's the messy middle for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where things start to fall apart. And so it's important to not believe that a student is less motivated because of how they are showing up as individuals or how they are showing up academically. It's not about motivation. It's about design and it's about identity. It's easy to default to, I am a first year, I don't know that.
Right.
It's harder to say, well, I already did this, but I still don't know, because the default response, and this is just how we are as humans, is, well, if you're back, didn't you learn something? Well, maybe you didn't, because honestly, all you were doing was just one foot in front of the other. And the learning wasn't happening. You were just doing what was necessary to wake up, do the thing, rinse, repeat. And so the assumption that you learned something in the first year is a poor assumption. Also, the assumption that what you learned was positive is a poor assumption as well. So let's make a point of having conversations with students that are in that second year that are about, hey, what do you notice is different? Hey, what from the first year, is there a specific course that jumps out at you?
Mhm.
Were there conversations that you had that really were meaningful and made you want to explore more? Is there an office on campus that you really felt like you clicked with? Is
Mhm.
there an office on campus that you did not feel that you clicked with? Is that relevant? Does it
Mhm.
matter?
Mhm.
And those sorts of things, it is easy to fall into if you have decided on a major. It's easy to think, well, your second year is easy peasy because you've decided on a major. So you're just going to be defaulting into things. And that's definitely a bold assumption.
Mhm.
If you've decided on a major, it's okay in your second year to still be exploring a little bit if your major allows for it. If you haven't decided on a major, it's okay to still be exploring, but there has to be structure. And so that structure may come from people on campus, but if the student doesn't know how to find those people, then this is where family, mentors, etc., have to provide that guardrail. This is where the guardrail looks different, but is equally as important.
And I wanna go back to what you said at the very beginning of this section, which was the fact that students are moving off campus and living on their own. They don't realize, yes, it gives them a bunch of freedom. Like now you can pick your roommates, you can pick your food, you can pick your own quiet hours, yada, yada, yada. But you do lose the guardrails. Part of the reason why in the United States, the vast majority of colleges and universities require students to live on campus at least for the first year, and many beyond that, second, third, or sometimes even all 4 years, is because that does provide some of the guardrails. We're not trying to stifle what students are doing, but there is programmatic and educational things that happen within those residential communities to help them get these steps forward and move forward in their life. I also want to help families and counselors think about, if you've ever played sports, I think back to high school basketball teams, that there was a freshman team, a JV team, and a varsity team. And freshman team, however, no one really showed up to watch the games except the parents. That's true. Same thing with college. In college, your parents are going to be super involved in their freshman year. You're going to be there for their first year. You're going to be, yeah, I'm going to come show up at the parent weekend and go to the games and go to the concerts, blah, 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 blah. Varsity is predominantly usually seniors, so that also parents are involved. Now you have an audience, you have a lot of fans at the varsity games. JV is kind of this weird, nebulous middle, what the heck is going on? Are you a varsity? Are you a freshman that did really well? Are you a varsity member that hasn't done as well? Like, what is this JV world? And so when we think about the second year and a bit into the third year, that's kind of like a JV team. Or in the music world, you're not in the freshman choir or the freshman band, and you're not in the upper level, the top level orchestra or ensemble. You're now in this middle nebulous. And the second year, sophomore year, and junior year are really training grounds to get these things. You've said connect with a lot of offices. I also want students and parents to remember that any connection to an office and any office is great. So I was good friends with, believe it or not, some of the janitors and custodial staff on my campus, and they'd been there for decades, so they knew where to send me when I had questions. I was friends with, places in the intramural sports office, in the office of spirituality, in the office of Greek life. There are offices all throughout campus, and students need to find the place that they feel a connection. It does not have to always be with your academic advisor or your major. Those are helpful people, but it does not have to be those people that you build a strong connection with.
And Chuck, to that point of any connection on campus is a good connection, um, that really is true. It's really true. The assumption of that you've got it figured out, once again, don't default to that,
Right.
because in theory, it would be easy to say, well, don't you know who is
So
going
and
to
so.
help you with that? Right? Let's not like lean into the places you do know,
Mm-hmm.
revisit them, keep them as your point people. Like
Mhm.
your first year point people, they are never not going to be your point people. Keep going back to them. And even if it is outside of like their purveyance,
Mhm.
right? It doesn't mean that they aren't going to send you to where you can get the specific thing you need. Um, like ironically enough, like how you were saying the janitorial staff. So our son is at Xavier, and apparently there's a woman um on the food service staff that is like this student favorite. And
Mhm.
so I, of course, asked him, like, who is so and so? And he was like, oh, that's like the person everyone asks questions to. And I'm pretty sure most parents did not think that the food service employee was going to be the
Right.
go to for students.
Mhm.
But this is why any connection is an important and relevant connection. Go back to those people. They may not be able to give you an exact direction, and they may not be well versed on this messy middle, unstructured. Is it working? Is it not working? Is it this? Is it not? Um, but through their lead, you are going to land where you need to go.
Yes.
And ironically enough, that is like the perfect way to describe your second year. You're not going to find who you need the most on your first contact.
Right.
It's going to evolve. And then you're going to find the person or the office or the entity that is your mainstay because they have become that.
Yep.
And so you're not in a holding pattern. You're not at the like, well, maybe this. Um, it's okay to keep moving in the middle. And if we think about this in like real life, when you are in that in between place, the frequent advice is you're in the in between place, stand still. No, don't. Like, don't stand still. Like, you are in the in between place, but don't stand still. It might feel unstructured. It might feel like you're a little like you're directionless. You might feel unsure. It might feel like, oh, I have to learn another thing and I'm still adjusting.
Mhm.
Use that to your advantage. Go with it. It's okay that you're not an expert your second fall.
Right. Yeah. For the Gen Xers that are listening, this it second year can feel a little bit like the Twilight Zone. Like if you want to do a flashback to that era, it's like, am I in reality? Am I not in reality? Like what's going on here? Like what's happening? Um
Yes.
so what if you could shift a mindset about that second or third year for students, how would you shift the mindset? What would you I think you talked a little bit about this, but I want to dive into this a little bit more. How would you shift the mindset around second year and third year of college?
So, we in the student facing part of higher education, we very frequently say, you don't know what you don't know.
Mhm.
So now we're going to talk about what do you know? What do you know? What do you need to know? Do you know you need to know it? So that is right. Like, I mean, all of those things. And so when we're shifting the mindset, if you don't know, you don't know, and that's okay. But what do you know?
Mhm.
And what you do know, let's identify it and let's move forward from that. Um, it's okay if you still aren't sure, and it's okay
Yep.
if you don't know who to ask. That's okay. What you do know, let's talk about it. And as the family of the student, it's okay to say, um, if you don't know that, we'll work together and find it out. Um, if you don't know that, ask a professor.
Mhm.
How do you have that conversation? You could potentially get through your first year of college and never go to office hours. That is actually something that can happen, right? Like
I
You and
don't
I,
recommend it, but yeah, you can do it.
no, please don't do that, but you can do it. And so if you are having that conversation with your student and your student says, like, actually, I never went to office hours, instead of the default, like, what? Then the conversation can shift to, hey, let me help you with that.
Yep.
You didn't do it, so let me help you. And so I think that the mindset shift isn't necessarily you should know that. You should have gotten better at that. Or haven't you figured it out? The mindset shift can be, well, you do know now. How do we build on it?
Mm-hmm. And this is exactly what I'm having conversations with. So I've been bringing back some of my former students who are either in their second year or their third year and recording a podcast with them. And these are the things that we're talking about. There are things that they knew how to do. So they got their academics in order. They're really solid in their academics. And like one of my students was so overloaded with credits that she didn't have time to join an intramural or a club sport. And she was a very active athlete in high school. So for her first year and a half, she really wasn't doing much with athletics. And she goes, I don't even know how to get involved in that. And I said, well, let me help you out. So we found the intramural and club sports office on her campus, which she's at a large public. And she goes, oh, I know where that building is. I walked by it. I've never really been in there and explored it. So yeah.
I
So
okay.
so
I love
she's
this
excited.
example.
Yeah.
Well, and this is such a good example because yeah, you probably did walk by it repeatedly and you never thought, what is this building? And that's okay. You There was so much coming at you.
Yeah.
You knew what you needed to know. And it's okay if you've walked past the building that was the place that you really needed. And now you realize, like, oh, those were my people. That's okay. It's okay that you're figuring that out just as much as it's okay, in all honesty, in your second year to change your major.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to do that. Um, it's okay to say, I thought as a student that I have did think that international business was a jet set lifestyle. And I finished one accounting class and I'm in my second accounting class in the
Mm-hmm.
fall. And this is terrible. And I don't ever want to do this again. And this does not look like a jet set lifestyle. And I want to change my major. You can do that. You can do that in your second year, and it's okay. The American system is set up in such a way that in the messy middle, you can change things up. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you are an engineering major, it's going to look a little different, but you can do it. You can still do that.
Right.
And so it's okay to kind of embrace the messy middle. It's okay to embrace the I didn't know, I know now, I want to make changes.
I love that. And I think the hard conversation for students, because they're always wanting to make sure that they're keeping their family and their parents happy, is that for parents and counselors who are listening, give your students the space to have those conversations and say it's okay to change. You know, I have a student right now who's pursuing a nursing major and she's in her second year and she's like, I don't know if this is the right fit. And nursing is a program that is very much every semester is go, 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 marching orders, keep moving forward, all these very specific classes. And I said, you need to talk with your academic advisor and say, what are some other opportunities or tangential majors that might be appealing to you? And she goes, well, yeah, but everyone in my program is so dedicated to nursing. I said, but colleges have been around for a long time. I am sure there are students previously at your institution who were at the same point as you were, who went, this is not my thing, get me into something else. So go talk to your academic advisor. Well, what if I disappoint my parents by switching my major? No, I have worked with thousands of parents. Parents want you to be excited about whatever academic path you choose and for you to be happy. Like that's the fundamental thing that parents talk about. So as long as you are still happy and moving in a different direction, I wouldn't worry about it. And she felt much better about it. She's like, oh, I'm going to go talk. Now, she may still stay in nursing after she's had that conversation, but allowing her to at least have that conversation rather than bottling it up and being like, I don't know if I'm a good fit or not fit. Should I switch? Should I not switch? Like, yeah, welcome to second year.
Yes. And honestly, like progress is progress.
Yep.
We are going to applaud progress, even if it's not how we thought it was going to look.
Mhm.
And I get as a parent, that can feel really uncomfortable. And as
Mhm.
a student, it can feel really like that can feel uncomfortable. Um, it's okay. Let's normalize the struggle. Let's normalize change. Let's normalize redirection. Um, because that means that self-discovery is happening. That
Yes.
means you are truly learning about what you like, what you don't like, who you are, who you want to be, and so on and so forth. Something that is such a privilege is to meet a student at orientation and then cross paths with them in the middle of their second year. Those
Mhm.
are not the same people.
No.
Those are not the same people. And I don't want them to be the same people. Like who they were at orientation is great. And they are like literally running the gamut of emotions, right? Like they are checking all the boxes. Like they're either like, yeah, this is exciting, or like, oh my gosh,
Oh my
it's
God.
not,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And then you run into them like late into the fall of their second year, and they're like, "Yeah, I think I actually know what I'm doing here," or like, "I think I know why I'm here,"
Right.
and that is a fantastic evolution. It's not clean, and it's okay. It's okay if there's moments of doubt. It's okay if there's moments of, am I doing this wrong? Can I make the change? Am I disappointing people? All of those
Mhm.
things are okay as a second year. What is the most critical thing that you can remember as a student is that more than likely it your campus doesn't really know what to do with you either. And
Mm.
that's just the design. That's just the design of the system. And so if your campus isn't giving, like, if you're not feeling that connection, and if you are feeling like you're kind of like, I don't know, is it this, is it that? Speak up. This is your time. Speak up. Say to someone, hey, I feel like everybody thinks I should have figured it out by now. I haven't. I don't know. Trust me.
You're
No
not the
one
only
is
one.
going to, you're not the only one. And no one is going to say, like, too bad, should have
Right.
figured it out. That's not the people who work on college campuses.
Right. Yeah, and it could mean a very big shift. It could mean maybe you need to go on a study abroad. Maybe you need to take a semester off. Maybe you need to switch majors. Maybe you need to switch where you're living on or around the campus. There's a whole bunch of things, and this could be a conversation that you have with the counseling mental health office. It could be with your academic advisor. It could be with the intramural sports program director that you're hanging out with, or the Greek life advisor. Like, I don't care who you're having this conversation with, but I agree with you, Maya. Students need to voice what's going on, because what they see on social media is that everything's supposed to be perfect. Everyone's getting great grades. Because when you look at the movies about college, they don't ever really go to class. They're not doing homework that often. And it's all like
No.
picture perfect. So these
Yes.
poor second year and third
It's
year students are like, but my college life isn't like what I see on my Instagram feed from my other friends and what else is going on. And I'm like, yeah, no, college is messy. College is cumbersome.
and if we're going to talk about the movies, we talk about how the first year is like fraught with all the things.
Yep.
But we don't ever, it's like the first year is the plot line. And then the second, third, and fourth is like, yay. And then your graduation. Like we're not really hitting the middle. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if if for a student, what makes you comfortable and what makes you confident is knowing, then lean in. If
Yeah.
you are confident and then you know what? This is where you start building that relationship with career services. In
Right.
all honesty, if I am working with you in your second year, I'm going to start getting really insistent in spring of your second year that you start hanging out with the people in career services. And the reason why is because I don't want your first career fair to be your last year of college. I want you to go to career fair that spring semester or that winter or spring quarter so that you see what it looks like when the stakes aren't high.
Mhm.
I want you to do this stuff while the stakes are low. So then you can start forming an opinion.
Yeah.
You can start really narrowing down things. And also, it's okay that the guardrails are less because you are developing your own set of guardrails for yourself.
Well, and career services isn't just about post-college careers. Like I just
It's
sent,
not about a job,
well, I mean, it can be, but I think students
but
go, oh,
it's,
I
yeah,
only go to career services once I'm ready for my job after college. I said, well, what about your summer job? What about your internships? What about even finding a job on campus or in the community? So if you're thinking about anything that's career or internship, summer employment connected, career services has their fingers in a lot of different areas as far as how they can help you connect. So if you're looking at a way to connect not only on campus, but off campus, and especially into the quote unquote real world, like career can be a great place. I just sent my sophomore, who's at a very selective liberal arts college, I sent him to the career services office because he's just like, I don't know about my major. I don't know what possible jobs. I don't know all these things. I'm like, it sounds like you need to go through some career assessments. You need to go talk to the career services office. And he said, well, I'm only a second year student. I said, that's exactly when you need to start having these conversations. Career is not just for the seniors. It's really
no,
should be another office that students go to. And it could just be once or twice a semester. Maybe they have a certain program that's appealing to you, or an alum is back visiting from a certain company that you're curious about, or there's some other presentation about how to build your resume, like whatever it is, or how to build your LinkedIn profile. Use career as a co-curricular, as a co-part of your education, that you're learning about this in addition to what you are doing in the classroom. Colleges aren't just about the academic knowledge, it's about the holistic knowledge both in and out of the classroom. And too many students miss the non-academic learning part of it.
yes, yes, and a side of yes. Also, like insider scoop here, friends. The people at career services can probably spend more time with you asking more holistic questions and having more holistic conversations than
Mm-hmm.
your academic advisor
Mm-hmm.
because career services doesn't have the same what the role of career services is not making sure that a student is meeting all the requirements to graduate.
Right.
Academic advising, they have a contractual agreement in a way that that you're completing your requirements and you're moving along. Career services is kind of like whatever you need them to be
Mm-hmm.
for who you are becoming. And so if you need to have a more, is this the right major conversation? Career services, like they have the time, they have the resources, and more than likely, the people there are more trained to help direct you with that. Something a lot of career services offices are now adopting are activities like life maps,
Mm-hmm.
vision boards, and all these types of activities that sound cute and fluffy, right? But they actually are really meaningful because students need that to to gain perspective, to see
Mm-hmm.
long range. The assumption that you know how to plan for the future without a starting point is a bold assumption.
Right.
Hang out with the career services people. They might be kind of your go-tos when you didn't expect it.
Yeah, they allowed me to have several different internships and explore career fields that I might be curious about and interested in that I ultimately did not pursue. But I worked in the
I
hospitality
can
industry for
absolutely
three summers, and I now am very conscious of the hospitality industry, and I'm probably one of the most polite customers you'll ever have in the hospitality industry because I worked in that for 3 summers. So it's like, yep.
no, it is. I mean, if you, if having conversations about, is this the right major and where do I belong? And I'm unsure about the future. If
Mhm.
those are conversations that you feel like you need to have and you're not having, go see your career services people. They're not scary, and they're not going to send you to a job fair, and they're not going to make you do a LinkedIn profile, and they're not going to ask you to fill out an application. They actually are probably going to do a little bit of fun stuff,
Mhm.
and they're not scary.
Usually not. Yeah.
No, I mean, it feels scary because they're in career services. It is a little daunting, but they're not. They're Go hang out with them. Um, Also, career services in your second year, it's not about placement. It's entirely about alignment.
Mhm.
Like, is what I'm doing as a focus of study in line with what I think I want to be doing and getting paid for?
Mhm.
Go hang out with them. I feel like if there is one person in a career services office on a campus that listens to this episode, I really hope they reach out to you or I and are like,
We are cheerleaders for the career services offices all across the country. So, shout out to all of those folks.
yes, yes. Mm.
Well, Maya, I know that we could talk for hours on end,
Yes,
but it sounds like we might need a third episode to keep going because, there's still more to talk about. But
there is, right?
I wanted to give you some time to do a little bit of soapboxing here. So if you could give some great advice out to my listeners, so I have parents listening, I have other independent educational consultants similar to myself listening, I've got students, I've got a global audience. Lots of people are tuning into the Don't Chuck It Up show, either on a podcast or on YouTube. I love all of my listeners from Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Audible, all those places. This is your time to share a few nuggets of your wisdom with everyone who's tuning in.
So, regarding second years, that is truly where the student shifts from a customer to a stakeholder. If you are an institution, treat them as such. If you are a parent or a family member that is supporting that student, start viewing them from that point of a stakeholder versus just you're there doing the thing. And that will help your mindset shift. Um, in the grand scheme of things, having this conversation is really valuable because what I genuinely hope is that whether you are a family member, a parent, another admissions consultant, whatever you are, as your role, that you are listening and you are listening to this episode, that it is driving home a handful of things. Admissions is just the beginning. Whatever was your big, bright, fantastic thing as a high school student is going to significantly change and also matter less and less. And it's okay if it doesn't come easy. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay if it feels complicated. It's okay if you feel like you're surviving. Speak up. And as the adult in the room, check in.
Mm-hmm.
Ask the bigger questions and not the default major deciding what are you doing questions. Because honestly, you guys, we sometimes forget to remember what college felt like for us and maybe be the person that sometimes you wish you had when you were a college student. It's okay to lean into that. And also, um, hiring a coach does not indicate that the family of the student or the parents of the student aren't doing a good job. It means that they understand that there's actually an incredible opportunity with the investment that they're making to genuinely get their ROI with that investment.
Mm-hmm.
bring in somebody who can have the conversations with the student for you and can also educate everybody in the process.
Awesome. Excellent advice, excellent words of wisdom for all of my listeners and those who are watching on YouTube. Mya, as always, I appreciate having you on the show. I will look for another reason to have you on again, because I think you
Let's
give
do
some
this.
great advice for all of my listeners, parents, students, counselors, everyone who's tuning in. Mya Anderson from The Student Empowered. You can learn more about her at thestudentempowered.com. There'll be a link to her website in my show notes.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, everyone, thanks for listening to Don't Chuck It Up. Subscribe for more college admissions guidance, and I'll be back next week. Until then, remember, don't chuck it up.
Don't chuck